Hey, everybody. Hi. Welcome to my first YouTube live stream. I am so happy to be here. Today, we're going to be talking about productivity and why I think that's a loaded conversation for, depending on how you identify. And so, we're going to break it down for women, those with female hormones, those who identify as women, and how we can start to rethink productivity in a way that is going to actually help us prevent burnout and stress. Because, I mean, that's sort of the big problem that I see everywhere is that we're kind of trying to do all the same hacking of productivity that we're being told. And by the way, that's all being based on sort of male biochemical patterns, and it's creating more stress, more burnout. And how do we know that? Because that can be like a subjective conversation, like, oh, I just feel more stressed. But actually, we know that because women are suffering from hormonal issues and symptoms at a much bigger rate than men are. And so when we really unpack this, it starts to get to a situation where we have to sort of ask some key questions about, what's what should we be doing differently, right? And why is this maybe not working the way that it should? And I want to kind of help answer that today because I've cracked the code for myself on productivity, and I wrote about it in my book In the Flow. And I really want to share with you what I think are some key strategies that just really can totally change the game when it comes to, getting more done, but doing it with less stress. And who doesn't want that? And I'll share, in full disclosure, I'm a mom, an author, I'm a business owner, I have a partner, like, there's a lot going on, and obviously have a robust self-care routine. So how I'm not coming to you with sort of like this easy schedule that just sort of makes it so easy to kind of do what I'm suggesting that you do. I'm coming to you with a full schedule, and I've sort of figured out ways to make it easier. So I want to start with debunking some myths first. I really do, because these myths have plagued me, and I'm certain that they've sort of shown up in your mind from time to time. So one of the things that I did a long time ago was I, took some time management classes, right? And traditional time management is kind of predicated on this idea that you um, kind of have this morning routine, some sort of magical morning routine that usually involves getting up early and doing some sort of workout. And then you sit down and you do some sort of like your biggest, most important thing. You tackle that first. And then you fill in the gaps and the rest of the day with, smaller activities, less important things, right? And then you take some time during the day to like refresh yourself mentally and physically and emotionally, right? And that you just rinse and repeat. You do that today, you do that tomorrow, you do that the next day, and on and on and on, the same routine every day. And that the promise is that by committing to the routine, by being disciplined to stay consistent with that routine, that you become more successful, more productive, and that you are constantly operating in more of a peak flow state, that flow state that athletes, sort of achieve because they have muscle memory and they've done the move like a million times, right? That's kind of a peak flow state that if you do the same routine every day, that you kind of really get into this flow state. It sounds really nice. And I certainly was so excited to have that happen. I could really see at a young age that if I could figure out how to organize my time and or manage my time and organize all the things that I had to do, that I could achieve more and be and go after the things that I was ambitious to go after. So I was invested from a young age to think about time management. But I encountered something really frustrating, which I'm sure you've encountered too, which is you set up your perfect daily schedule. You got the morning a wake up time, the workout thing, you commit to that. You have your You put your big rocks in and your small rocks and sharpening the saw and all the things that, these time management systems talk about. And you do it for a few days. You do it feeling good, everything's working, everything's in a groove. And then all of a sudden, I like kind of just nothing's changed on the planner. Your planner looks the same as it did yesterday, but something has changed within yourself that you can't quite identify. And you look at this plan that you had made a week ago, 'cause, it's all supposed to be the same every day. So you look at this thing and you look at your plan and you go, "Oh, hell no. I don't want to do this. This is not what I wanted to sign up for today. I am not in the mood for this project. The idea of getting up at this time is like making me ill. I don't want to do that workout. I don't want to talk to those people. I don't want to go to that event." No, right? It's just like your whole body is reacting to this plan. And then you have to sit there and fight with yourself. Now you're in a predicament, right? Like, oh no, um, now I've committed to all this stuff. What does it mean, according to the time management gurus, that I'm now saying I don't want to do it? Am I a failure? Have I failed because I can't keep my commitment to this productivity plan? Um, what is this? You go into this like I've been there. Does it sound like I've been there? I've been there. You go into a spiral of feeling bad about yourself, feeling like you're a failure, feeling like you can't, keep your commitment, you can't keep your word to yourself, you're breaking the four agreements, whatever it is, you come at from all the self-help angles. This is a big crisis, right? And it's so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary because the problem is not you, honey, is not you at all. The problem is that productivity plan Your productivity plan only factors in one biological rhythm that's perfectly optimizes people with male hormonal patterns, perfectly sets them up. It's suited for their biochemistry and it sets them up to be in that peak flow state day in and day out if they stick to that same wake up time, if they do the same, good workout in the morning to take advantage of their peak testosterone, if they do their deep work when they can focus and concentrate in earlier in the day, and if they do all the other things in the afternoon that are, less important, then they will be their most productive self and reduce stress in their hormonal ecosystem. Meaning, when I say reduce stress, I mean keep cortisol levels low. But you as a person with female hormones, right, you have a second biological clock. And In the Flow is the first book to outline this biological clock, and it's called the infradian rhythm. And this rhythm is something that you experience over the course of your menstrual cycle, just like the circadian rhythm is something you experience over the course of a day, right? So as a person with female hormones, you have a circadian clock and an infradian clock. Okay, great. So if you're trying to do planning and all the time management systems are only factoring in your circadian 24-hour clock, can you see how somewhere you're going to run into a problem, right? Just logical, like, oh, there might be some friction with other things happening in my biochemistry that are being governed by that infradian clock that might be in direct conflict with the whole premise of doing the same thing every 24 hours, which only supports a circadian rhythm. And people with male hormones only have a circadian clock. If you have female hormones, you have both. Okay. So it then occurred to me, well, this explains so much. It's not that I am a failure or that I have problems with commitment or being disciplined. Quite the contrary. It's that I wasn't aware of or factoring in the changes that were taking place with this infradian effect on my uh, brain chemistry, on my energy levels, on my mood, right? And so let me just give you like a little example. In the ovulation phase, you have the highest levels of circulating estrogen in your brain. And because of that, it hyperstimulates the verbal and social centers of your brain. So this is great because if you're planning out your month, you could totally cram jam, as they say in across the pond. You cram jam. If anybody's watched Mary Berry videos on YouTube, she always says she cram jammed it with something, and I just thought that was adorable. So you can cram jam the week that you're ovulating with networking events, meetings that you have to give presentations, first dates, anything that you can where you can use your verbal and social skills to their maximum advantage for whatever you're trying to work on. What does this do? Of course, when you plan your events in synchronicity with what's happening with your biochemistry, well, it's super fun to do. It's easy, pleasurable. You look forward to it. It does not feel like a drag. And B, because of that, and because you actually have the inner fuel stimulating the inner estrogen to stimulate those verbal and social centers, when you do those activities, it's not draining your energy bank account, and it's not taxing your adrenals. So you don't have this cortisol, sort of stress experience, right? Great. Let's do more of that. So now we've left ovulation. Now we're going to be in the luteal phase. The luteal phase is the longest phase of the cycle after ovulation, is 10 to 12 days before the first day of your bleed. And most of us think that this is a throwaway time of the month, like, oh, you know, I'm going to be PMSing. And many of you might be, because the degree to which you are disrupting your infradian rhythm by doing the same calorie intake, the same workout intensity, the same time management plan every day. If you're doing that every day, you are going to be disrupting your infradian clock. So the degree to which you're disrupting your infradian rhythm is the degree to which you'll be experiencing symptoms like PMS or other symptoms with your cycle or your metabolism or your immune system, etc. All of this is in my book, In the Flow. If you haven't yet picked it up, and there's so much in there that is just going to change everything for you. So the luteal phase, this big chunk of time, you have the wonderful experience of having the highest levels of progesterone circulating in your brain. And progesterone has this calming and focusing effect on your productivity. So for me, luteal phase is when I plan ahead for all my deep work, right? And I just clear my schedule of social events and I just get down to business, because it is pleasurable and easy and effortless for me to sit there and get things done. And it doesn't create a lot of stress in my body, and I am very efficient and productive. So I've redefined productivity based on a couple of things. One, being in sync with what's happening with your hormonal biochemistry in your body and your brain. And two, that the experience of doing the thing that you're doing, the task, that it's pleasurable and feels easy to do, right? Like you're enjoying it and it happens quickly. The opposite of that could be like where you've said you were going to do this thing and you're just, oh God, I don't want to do it. You're dragging, it takes like 3 times as long. Whereas when you're in the zone of synchronizing the right activity at the right time for your body, it flies by, right? And you're like, wow, that was easy. So productivity should be one where it feels good and it's easy to accomplish in an efficient way. And I think that it has to be in sync with what's happening with your biochemistry in order for those two factors to be achieved, right? Or those two criteria to be met. Now, some of you might be thinking, gee, Lisa, but if I have all this PMS, I don't feel very productive or focused or clear or calm during my luteal phase. And that very well might be true, because if you're disrupting your infradian rhythm, as I mentioned before, and you're having PMS, then what that actually means, what PMS actually is in hormonal biochemical terms, it means that you have not enough progesterone to offset the estrogen surge during the luteal phase. And that imbalance between too much estrogen and not enough progesterone creates every single symptom of PMS. PMS is not normal. It's not supposed to happen. It's commonplace, but it's not supposed to happen. And when you balance your hormones and dial in your hormonal self-care, then you can make adequate levels of progesterone. And this 10 to 12 day period out of the month can be one of your most productive. So that's the first kind of, myth that I wanted to debunk, which is that this idea that you would do the same thing every day is fundamentally gender biased towards male hormones. So if you're somebody with female hormones, you've got to just take that whole piece of conditioning that you've been programmed with, that like the best thing you could do is stick to the same routine every day, pull it out of the old mental files and chuck it out the window. Just delete file, alt delete, okay? Because what you need to do is put in the upgraded operating system understanding, which is that you have two biological rhythms, the circadian that you experience every 24 hours, and an infradian clock, which affects your brain chemistry by up to 25% over the course of the month. And you have to start planning out tasks to map onto the month as all of these changes are taking place. There are two chapters in the flow that really break this down for you. Chapter 4 is the food chart. Chapter 5 is the workout chart. Chapter 6 is this sort of like productivity chart. And then in chapter 7 or 8, there's a second chart about how you could apply this inside of work specifically. So there's productivity in general, and then there's a chart just for like work, how you might be working in an office or with a team. And there's that whole thing as well. So I highly recommend that you pick up the book In the Flow, and you can do that at intheflowbook.com. You can do it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, wherever books are sold online. You can pick up the book In the Flow, and it will give you sort of the easy way for you to start, mapping your productivity. Another thing that I like to debunk is this whole idea of the waking up at the same time every day. Separate from just having the same routine every day, this other one is another insidious biohacking, productivity guru coach kind of thing. Like, okay, you're gonna wake up every day at the same time and do your workout first thing, and then like you're gonna crush the day. Okay, here's the thing. Having a good sleep and wake hygiene and consistency is healthy. Let's see, because that supports your circadian rhythm. However, women or those with female hormones need 20 minutes more of sleep per night compared to those with male hormones. Why? We have more densely networked brains. There's more stuff in a smaller space. And because of that, we need more sleep to go through the brain self-cleaning process so that you wake up refreshed and clear-headed. So if you're in a heterosexual relationship and you have a partner who has male hormones, or if you're in any kind of relationship and your partner has male hormones, and your partner is like, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. and I want to be part of like the 5 a.m. club, right? You and you want to be part of that club too, great. You're just going to wake up at 5:20. Okay, but you're also not going to be able to do that every phase of the cycle. In the first half of the cycle, the follicular and ovulatory phases, right? Your resting cortisol levels are lower. So you can wake up earlier. You still need 20 more minutes of sleep compared to your male partner, but you can wake up earlier if you want to, and you won't feel that that has a negative impact on keeping your blood sugar stable or impacting your cortisol levels. After ovulation has occurred and you're now in the luteal phase, resting cortisol levels are higher. So you don't want to sort of wake up super early, right? You want to give yourself an extra REM cycle in the morning, like wake up at 6:30 or 7 or whatever feels good, because the more sleep you get, the more you're going to wake up with stable blood sugar, which is going to help offset any tendency you might have to slide into PMS symptoms, right? So it's really, really important. And of course, it's also going to allow you to use stored fat as fuel and not have your body be programmed to fat storage. And so, really making sure you get your sleep right in the second half of the cycle is important. So, if you have a belief that was stuck in there as a program that says the early bird gets the worm, I would also pull that out, throw it out the window, right? Instead, you want to think about what's the right morning wake up time for me based on where I am in my infradian rhythm, in my cycle, because that's what's running the show. And it only is logical that you would align your self care practices with what's happening in your body, right? As I always say, the form of your self care should follow the function of your biology and biochemistry. Right? I'll say that again. The form of your self care should follow the function of your hormonal patterns, your biochemical patterns, right? It only makes sense. And anything that's not in alignment with that is going to disrupt your biochemistry. Full stop. That's what it's going to do, right? Like if we don't eat, right, then it disrupts our blood sugar. The form of our self-care, eating in a regular pattern, supports the function of our biochemistry, which is to keep our blood sugar stable, right? Same premise, just applied to the fact that we have a specific pattern, a cyclical pattern to our biochemistry, with this infradian effect that no one has told you about before. No one has taught you to factor into your productivity, time management, workouts, calorie intake, nothing. And I'm really, really proud to have written the first book in the flow about this, and to have created the first method that supports this infradian rhythm. And it's called the cycle syncing method. You may have heard of this. We have 5 million women hashtag cycle syncing on TikTok. I'm the creator of this method. And it's really, really important. You can just see from our conversation about productivity, right? What you can imagine, right? If you started to synchronize all your activities throughout the month with what's easy for you, but because of all the biochemical and hormonal advantages that you get each of the phases of your cycle, how much more you'd get done, how less stressed you'd be, how much happier you'd be, right? And it's so much easier to go after your goals. Again, I started this conversation saying, hey, I want to just real talk, let you know I'm a really busy and ambitious person. And how I get everything done is by totally syncing my schedule with my cycle, period, pun intended. And at first, you start to have the arguments with yourself. Well, gee, Elisa, it's a nice idea, but, what if I'm on a deadline from work? Or what if my kid needs the science project done tonight? Or what if? That is all fine, right? You will be able to just think about it this way. I'll use this as an analogy. When you change over to healthy eating, right? At first, your tendency is like, oh, I want to do it perfectly. I want to be 100% eating organic. But the reality is, if you, and this is my first book, Woman Code, the 80/20 rule is actually really efficient. If you 80% of the time eat organic foods and eat, things that keep your blood sugar stable and help you break down estrogen and all of that stuff, right? When you have the things that happen in life, like parties or events or travel or, ups and downs, right? Unpredictable life moments where you're not able to have everything be what you want it to be with your food, because 80% of the time you do prioritize that. The 20% of the time where you can't prioritize that, your body can handle it, can absorb that dietary stress in stride. It doesn't disrupt you, right? But that's that ratio has to be there. It has to be about 80% you've got to be on, and 20% you can totally chill and indulge and relax and let life be life, right? It's unpredictable. Same thing is truly. You just want to try about 80% of the time to schedule, right, as much as you can in alignment with your hormonal patterns. And then when there's something like an urgent deadline or some fire drill at work or something happening with the kids or whatever, right, your body will be much better able to absorb that stress without it disrupting you entirely. But think about it in the inverse. If you don't do this at all and you're constantly pushing against your natural um, patterns of what you're feeling energized to do, what you're more naturally interested in focusing on, etc., you increase the friction in needed to get that thing done. So friction makes it harder to do. You're going against the grain, swimming upstream, whatever analogy you want. And that creates a drag of your energy. You're draining your energy, increasing stress. So that now something random happens and your energy bank account is empty, your stress bank account is overflowing, and the new stress comes in. How are you going to respond to that? Not well, right? And it may tip you over into adrenal fatigue, or like you might get a cold because you're so stressed out and it tanks your immune system. Who knows, right? All these things can take place because when we continuously drain our bank account with our energy and we overload our stress bank account, it is not a good situation. So, this is what I mean. You don't have to be perfect. You can let things be where they need to be when they happen. But if you can proactively start to manage your time and think about productivity in alignment with your infradian rhythm, it will change not only your productivity, but it will change the quality of your life. I mean, that is a fact. So it's exciting to be able to share this technology with you because I know how much it changed my life, right? And I threw out all those planners that did not factor in my infradian clock. And in fact, in chapter 6 of In the Flow, I share with you the planner I invented for myself that factors in both the infradian and the circadian clock so that you can start to manage and plan your time and your productivity just the way that I have been doing all these years so that you can start to feel the way you're supposed to feel, which is in that peak state of flow, right? That's why we call the book In the Flow, because I know that when you synchronize with your cycle, you get in the flow of your best health and your best productivity and your best life. And it just is so much easier. And we know that this works because when people with male hormones start to align their self care with their circadian cycle, which is a 24-hour cycle, they do start to optimize their fitness and their health and their productivity and everything else, right? And they feel better. So it works. We just have never had a method that factors in hours. And so now we do. It's called the cycle syncing method. You can learn more about it in the flow. But the other reason why I wanted to hop on today was because at flowliving.com, which is the company that I founded to be the premier destination for your hormonal healthcare, um, we are doing 3 special challenges to start our year off properly. And I can't tell you about the challenges we're going to do in February and March, but you do not want to miss them. But I can tell you about the challenge that's free that we're doing in January. And if you are excited by what you've heard today, I want to invite you into the Cycle Syncing Challenge for January. It's free. It's totally free. I'm going to put the link here. What you're going to get, and there's going to be a little kickoff call with me. We're going to do a little webinar. I think I can put this in the chat. Let's see. Nope. Chat. I don't know if there's a chat. Okay. I'd like to put it in the chat, but I don't know if there is a chat. Oh, but I'll give you the link to sign up. You can go to flowliving.com and then you're going to put a hashtag, a slash, flowliving.com/cycle dash syncing dash challenge. Okay. So if you go to flowliving.com/cycle dash syncing dash challenge, you're going to be able to sign up for this free 7-day challenge. And this is going to be comprehensive. It's not just about productivity. You're going to be able to really understand why you have to stop dieting every day of your life that gets you like no results. Again, it's all based on the wrong rhythm, the wrong biochemistry. You're going to learn how to be more productive and get more done, just like we talked about today, with less stress. You're going to get more time back in your day to take care of yourself. Hello, we all need that. You're going to have an easier time sticking to a food plan and a fitness plan because it's going to be in sync with your biochemistry. So it's going to feel so easy to do. And you're going to have more ease in your relationships because there's a whole thing about that too in chapters 8 and 9 that you're going to not want to miss. And all of these are going to be coming in daily emails from me with practical, easy to implement tips that you can apply so you can feel better, work smarter, and love more. I mean, I think this is something that every woman should know about, her infradian rhythm. That's why I wrote a book about it. And I think it's something that we should start practicing, which is why I created the cycle syncing method so that you would have the tools and the system to really make sure that you could have a life where you're more in your peak flow state. I'd also encourage you, if you haven't yet done it, to download the MyFlow app. That's myflowtracker.com, and it has the same circle icon that you see on the cover of my book, In the Flow. And that's important because there's another one that's not my app. So In the Flow and then myflowtracker.com. And this is the only cycle syncing method based app. So it will tell you where you are in your cycle, what's happening in your brain, what's happening with your metabolism, what you should be eating, a grocery list, workout videos. I mean, it's so comprehensive. I've dedicated my career to solving these complex hormonal issues for you with protocols and supplements that really move the needle, and also building the tools to make living with female hormones as easy and symptom free as possible. So if you haven't checked out the full suite of things we offer at flowliving.com, I would really encourage you to do that. And of course, to download the app as well as pick up the book in the flow. But be sure to join us for the January Cycle Syncing Challenge. Again, that's flowliving.com/ cycle syncing challenge. And stay tuned for the unbelievable, has never happened before on the internet, February challenge. You do not want to miss that one. So, and here's what I am excited about these three challenges. I was dreaming up with my team, how can we create some free things for women to try so that if they did them, stacked them at the beginning of their year, that it would totally change the trajectory of 2022 in every aspect of their life. So this is what I cooked up. This is part one. Part two and part three are coming. I don't want you to miss any of them. So get started with us with the January Cycle Syncing Challenge and stay tuned for February and March. It is going to be epic. All right, ladies. Well, I am so glad that you joined me today to talk a little bit about productivity, what's, myth and what should be discarded and what's really available for you when you start to synchronize your time management with your infradian rhythm. You learned about the cycle syncing method that I created to support your infradian rhythm. In the Flow is the first book to talk about both of these things. You've got to pick it up and share this with your female friends. Everybody's feeling a little bit of that pain right now about, gee, I made some New Year's resolutions. It's almost the end of January. I'm not doing it. I'm not sticking with it. It's not your fault. You've just made a plan that doesn't factor in your unique female biochemistry. And now you finally have the information and the tools to be able to do that. And it will change your life in every possible way. So I'm really excited for you to have been here with me today. Share this with your friends who have female hormones because it is not yet something that we are talking about in the mainstream. So we all have to kind of share it with each other. And don't forget to join me in the January Cycle Syncing Challenge and bring your friends with you. It's a free challenge. You can do it together. It's so, so much fun. And I'll be back every so often, every couple weeks on YouTube to do a live with you to talk to you about what I think is so important for you to understand about how your unique female biochemistry works so that you can start to optimize your health and elevate your life. All right, ladies, until next time, take really good care of yourself and your ovaries, and I will talk to you another time.